NWP Radio.
You're listening to NWP Radio, a production of the National Writing Project.
NWP.
Hi, Jessyca. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me today. I really appreciate it. And I haven't talked to you for a while, so it's nice to also...
It's been a little bit.
It has been a little bit, yeah, since that project, which was several years ago. But as I said on my email, there's a really lovely write-up about you on the nwp.org website, and it made me think like, oh, right, so Jessyca's someone who's done really interesting work in online spaces and thinking about sort of shared curriculum across classrooms, and has done some really important social justice work, and is an author herself, and is someone I think I should speak to. So, but let you introduce yourself and sort of tell us what is it that you do and why you do what you do.
Well, my name is Jessyca Mathews. I am from Flint, Michigan. I'm a resident there. I teach at Carmen Ainsworth High School, which is located outside of the city, but we are a school of choice. So we have a number of students who live within the city of Flint. That's my alma mater. I just finished year number 20. Woo! 2 decades.
Wow, that's great.
I know. I keep thinking about it. I'm like, I did 2 decades in education. What am I thinking? And wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
I teach juniors and seniors, mostly seniors. My senior course is called, it's English 12 Activism and Inquiry. It's a semester class. It's so much fun. I love doing it. They let me design it. So when you have that freedom and can design things to work on different kinds of writing projects and research, it's awesome. I'm finishing up right now my Regional Teacher of the Year reign. It ends next week. So I'm finishing like the last steps of that. So that's been an amazing experience. And
do they have you go and do, like, what do you do when you?
Oh my goodness. When you're an ARTOI, that's what you're known as. You are involved in so many things. You get to go speak at different engagements. I made a small little commercial with PBS, which was cool.
Oh.
I have talked to pre-service teachers, the higher ups of colleges who are in charge of the education programs.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Just all kinds of adventures. I've been involved, board meetings with the state. I have learned so much about the docs of the state.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things I could take away from it is I've learned like how to dig deeper into different issues and policies.
Oh, interesting.
It was busy. I mean, it was super busy until, of course, COVID hit, and the last 3 months everything's been online.
Yeah.
So Zoom calls are life
Yeah.
when you're an ARTOI during this time. But no, it's been amazing. We did our last meeting yesterday, and I'm just doing like the paperwork things so the next person can take over.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. That's super
Thank you.
exciting. So yeah, let's talk about some of this online work. So how do you design to support writing and learning writ large in online spaces? And what have you been thinking about recently too, sort of in the moment of COVID?
Writing for English teachers face-to-face is a completely different space than online. Mm-hmm. Especially with high schoolers. It's so much more that you have to sit back and examine and think about, is this really necessary during this time? So of course there's like online writing, but online writing during COVID is a totally different beast to kind of think about and conquer. So
that's a good point.
When things happened in March, of course I had a whole plan for the whole semester, and you're just like, well, we got our research paper and this and this and this. And then as I started to think about things, I was like, is that the writing that's really necessary for this time? I really wish more teachers would think that way. And I know it's harder because that means you're constantly adapting, but you have to really think about the kids in the space in the historical time that they're in right now. So I had to make a shift because I'm like, I can't make these research papers do with me not there because there'll be a zillion questions. Kids will feel defeated. Kids have other distractions right now. Like, I'm not their number one concern. So I had to adapt, and I made things more about, with my English 12 class, it was more about building their voice digitally, something they can share out to the world versus something that we do in our community, which is what we usually do. So we made like a senior capstone where they still did research, not the same as what I usually do with the research paper. But they did more real world things. Like they wrote a plan of action, and they had creative ways of getting their voice out. So they might have wrote out their script for their podcast, or if they made a PowerPoint, they had to write out the different notes that they wanted to say if they were saying it in front of someone, or record themselves like a TED Talk. That kind of online writing happened more, which I think is actually more powerful because they're doing it for the world at large versus them doing it just for a teacher. With my juniors, we got to do some things that we usually don't get to do. During this time, usually in the spring, we're doing Hamlet because that's what, it's like, it's spring, let's do Shakespeare. And I sat back and went, do I really want my juniors to do Shakespeare on their own? And two, is there really a necessity for Shakespeare during this time? And I went, no. So if it's not a necessity to me, why would I give it to the kids? That doesn't make sense. So instead we did spoken word poetry. We did a whole mini unit. I made a playlist of amazing spoken word artists of all backgrounds, all genders, I was just like, why aren't we just giving something that they can enjoy and process? They're already in an emotional state with COVID anyway. So my playlist had, I think, 15 different artists. I gave them an introduction first of what a spoken word artist is, what they do, and they did that evaluation. And then I gave them 15 artists. I told them to check out 9. I don't think they have to look at everything. Give kids choice. So they got to pick the ones they did, although there were some who did all of them, which was awesome. But I told them when they watched the artists, their writing was more of them reflecting and thinking about, did this artist reach my head? Did this artist reach my gut? Or did this artist reach my heart?
Oh, I like those prompts.
And so I gave the prompts and said, you choose, this is you reflecting. How does this connect to you? And so they went through, did that. And then at the end, when they had a chance to think about it, I had them write their own piece about COVID. I was like, if you were a spoken word artist, what would you want to say about COVID? Like, how has it changed your life? How do you feel about being at home? Has it affected your job? I'm like, as long as you're focusing on your things that you want to share with the world about your head, your heart, your gut, you want to reach one of those 3, do what you want. And I got amazing pieces from kids. And it's because it's something they were like, I want to learn something different. I don't have to do traditional. I don't have to learn Shakespeare. Like, it's not a necessity. It really isn't. Right. But those were the more fun things I can think of in this process, because you stumble. Yeah. But I was really, the spoken word is staying because I'm like, I don't know, I'm fitting it in.
That's powerful. And the performative, it's performative, right? So it picks up on that sort of, I don't know. I've never taught Shakespeare, so I'm not even going to try to parallel it. But that's powerful. Did they share with each other? Did they share beyond each other? How?
It's one of those things I told them if you'd like to, because it's such a sensitive topic. Yeah. I'm like, if you want to share out, you can post it on Google Classroom. You tell me what plan you want to do. That's why I wish more teachers would be like, what would you like me to do with your work versus you choosing? And I always say to kids, like, do you want me to share out? We did poetry earlier as an introduction. We focused just on Clint Smith. Everything was all Clint Smith because he's fabulous and amazing. I should say Dr. Clint Smith, to be respectful. So they had some exposure with it, but they needed to learn that spoken word artists, they have a different skill. Right. And so if you think you have that skill, then if you want to say it to me, I said, you can say it to me. We can post it. We can do whatever you want. Let me know. I think it's a little different because during COVID, it was kind of rushed, to think about where to share in the next space. When I use it next year, I'm going to make that an option and be like, okay, so where do we share these things? Do you want to record it? Do you want to put it up around school? Do you just want to put it on Twitter? I tweet my kids' work when they want me to. Yeah. Just thinking about that bigger concept when I get a chance to think about it. That's what the summer's for, is like thinking about like, how do I want to change the writing space for my kids if we're a hybrid or still at home while we're learning. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. And I do think it's powerful, this sort of
how would you want to share it in the world? Giving that as or making that a conversation, and not
it's possible to do that.
Yeah.
We did Clint Smith. They made videos. They picked the piece that they liked the most, and I said, you can do a video where you're kind of breaking it down for people that are not into poetry the same, or you can give a visual representation of what you think Clint Smith wants the world to know. So when we did those, we had a video show. We had like an award show, and we voted, and I asked, where would you like this to go? Do you just want it to stay here? Do you want it to just be like we celebrated it here? My 6th hour was just like, no, we want you to put it on Twitter because we know Dr. Smith is on Twitter.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll see it. And I'm like, hey.
Yeah, that's smart.
Put them up there. And the kid who I thought was the coolest, it wasn't voted number 1, but in my opinion, it was number 1. I thought it was amazing. Dr. Smith saw it and he commented.
That's
he looked
awesome.
at all the videos and we're like, God, he's like, all of you did such a great job. I showed that to them, like, I don't want to say like 2 days after we had our show. And I put it on the screen. I'm like, guys, look, Clint Smith talked to you. They about had a meltdown. They all were just like, we're the best people ever. I'm like, I know. So that's why you ask. You don't want to embarrass them. You don't want to force your will on like, oh, my kids are great, so I'm going to no, ask. And you never know what they'll ask you to do with it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm so excited that there was a response too. And your award show, so in my head, were you on Zoom or some sort of platform like this for the award show? Or
luckily enough, we did Clint Smith before COVID.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
We got lucky. We just did it. We literally had just finished it up. I want to say like a week and a half before. And so I was like, oh, thank goodness, because that would have been really difficult to figure out what to do, you know?
Yeah.
But with them doing the spoken word pieces, I have them saved, and hopefully I'll have some of the same kids next year, since they'll be seniors next year, and I can, maybe reflect back or use them as examples, or I don't know, we'll see.
So I know it's not one of my set of questions, but this sort of tension between, because you're an author yourself, like I feel like there's always this tension between, go public with your work, authentic audience, all of that. And like, we know as writers, a lot of our stuff doesn't see the light of day, right? Like, it's just like that it's all on a sort of continuum, but the opportunity to have real audience and the opportunity to have like real, I don't know. I often end up feeling like I'm promoting everybody put their stuff public, but that's actually not like what any writer would do, really, right? I don't know if you.
It's just sitting there, you know what I mean? Like, but one thing that I would say to people that helps with that process is getting a writing buddy, like an accountability buddy. That helps me. I oddly found my writing partner in November, and we became writing partners after knowing each other 48 hours.
Wow.
So
awesome.
He's in Maryland. We actually talked this past Sunday. Like we were like, okay, now that we found out both of us kind of write little things and most of it is hidden, once you get some feedback from someone that you're comfortable with and trust, like I completely trust Scott with his writing feedback, and he's always said, you can take it, or you can just be like, I don't want to do it, and I've said the same thing. And there have been things that we've talked about, like what space do we think it's best to share it in? Like it might be best to just share it on Twitter. So like the first thing I looked at of his, he wrote it and he tweeted it out and people loved it. He's like, that's the space I want to share it.
Right.
Same with one poem I wrote. I was just like, I'm gonna put this poem up. He's like, cool. People on Twitter love it. Sometimes you might want to blog it. Sometimes you might want to publish it. You never know. But having that person to discuss and give you some feedback instead of you being your only person sitting there. Because if it's just you, most of the time you're going to go, I'm not putting it out there.
Yeah. It's really
not
good
going to
point.
happen.
Yeah.
If it's just you, no. I know that eventually Scott is going to be like, okay, so where are we putting this? Because he's there to push me and I'm there to do the same for him. So
right.
I would highly recommend everyone find someone to like press you in the middle of your back going, move. It helps tremendously.
And I assume in the classroom, it sounds like that's sort of what you're doing with your students. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, what are we gonna do with it? All the time I'm like, so what are we gonna do with this? I don't know. Well, you gotta think about this. What are we gonna do? Like, I don't want you writing for me. I tell kids all the time, I don't want them writing for me.
Yeah.
I'm their cheerleader. I'm their editor for them to figure out where they want to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that recommendation. Do you have other recommendations that you would make for people sort of just getting started with this?
Writing?
Teaching writing, yes. And especially in this moment.
I don't want to just hype up the National Writing Project because, but National Writing Project changed my life. I have said that to everyone. I am forever grateful to the Red Cedar Writing Project because they were the ones who were like, yeah, get your voice out there. Like Janet Swinton's amazing. Don Reed is amazing. My cohort was absolutely amazing. Still talk to the majority of them, some from time to time, but I have a crew that like all the time we're doing something. So I do like the National Writing Project because they, especially if you're teaching writing, there's so many great resources. I love doing all kinds. I will go on there, look at different units and be like, oh, I really like that. I can fit it into what I already have. You don't have to start from scratch, which I love. C3WP is my favorite for my course, just because they have all these different topics that deal with issues of social justice. There's a unit, the one I use first is the protest unit. I really, really love the protest unit. And then there's another unit that's talking about the police. I do police brutality unit with my juniors.
Yeah.
And let them give books of choice, which was, they told me their favorite thing to do was having those books. I have like 8 different books that talk about police brutality or policing by, you know, higher up officials that they like to look at. If you're just thinking about writing in general, I love to use Anne Lamott's. Anne's got the best advice. She's my favorite is Bird by Bird.
Right.
That one's
Excellent.
good. I share that with kids all the time. Yeah. Of course, Shitty First Drafts is the bomb chapter.
Right.
And I copy it for seniors every year. And then they get a hold of me and say, oh, in college, you're reading the same chapter. I'm like, I know, because she's
it's really
brilliant.
Good. Yeah.
And I'm reading a book right now by Toni Morrison. Oh, I can't. And of course, it's over there by my couch. That has her collection of meditations and speeches and her reflecting on her own writing. I see, this is why you need a writing partner, because Scott sent it to me and it's amazing. Mm-hmm. And she literally talks about her own process in writing. And I think that's important because a lot of times we think we're crazy in our process of writing. Like we're second guessing, like, why am I writing this paragraph for the 5th time this week? Or why am I spending so much time? Why am I stuck? And for you to see that Toni Morrison, as amazing as she was, also struggled. And even after she wrote, she was like, I probably shouldn't have ended things that way. Or I could have focused on that. Or just hearing her brilliance of crafting her work and seeing that it was a struggle as well. It's a really great book. And of course, like I said, it's sitting all the way over there and I can't get the title. But I just think anyone who wants to write, they just need to read a lot of things.
Yeah.
You just need to read everything. And not just classics. Like, I don't remember the last time I read a classic. I read young adult lit. Yeah. I read poetry. I have poetry collections behind me. Like, you just need to read a lot because you're going to get inspired somewhere if you reach out for the source. If you don't grab a source, you're never going to get inspired. Yeah,
I love that. And we've been talking about using sort of mentor texts, and, Troy has a lot of that work that's around, using multimedia as mentor text to sort of break out into like new spaces and places with your writing.
People need to read Troy too.
Yeah. Troy, I agree with that. Yeah, I still a lot of.
Kelly Gallagher is amazing.
Yeah.
There's so many, of course, Penny too, right? Like there's just all these different people. You just need to read and go, can it give you a spark?
Yeah.
Once you get a spark, you're awesome. Nothing to worry about. You just go with it,
Right.
Like Actress Learner was my spark of how I changed everything by Jeffrey Wilhelm.
Yep.
that was it. After I read that, I was like, oh, I'm ready. Like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the idea of also learning from artists themselves, from writers themselves. What are the struggles? What's real, and
right.
Yeah. So important. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. And it's thrilling for me to have a chance to just catch up with you and hear all the cool things you're doing. And I'll make a link next to this interview to the C3WP, which is College Career and Community Writing program. And because you remind me, there are really rich resources in there that folks could find interesting too.
Thank you for letting me speak to you. It's great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Thank you.
You're listening to NWP Radio, a production of the National Writing Project.
NWP. NWP Radio.